is up, and it's good.
You're listening to The Extra Point, hosted by Phil Ruskin. Welcome.
Yo, 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 welcome in. It is Tuesday night, which means it is Dynasty time. Welcome to another episode of The Extra Point. I'm your host, Phil Ruskin, as always, with my guy, Kendall. How was your Halloween, man?
Halloween was awesome. Actually, it's definitely going to go down as one of the best Halloweens for sure. And not because anything crazy happened. It was just the kids had a good time. Even my 4-year-old ended up staying home, but my almost 2-year-old daughter had her all dolled up, did the thing around the neighborhood. It was just nice. A good time, man. Everyone's having a good time. I feel like when both your kids for like a 3-hour time span are like taking cute, like legitimate cute pictures and everyone's loving on them. That's not a window I can usually hit, man. That's a long time. Yeah. So things were good.
My daughter was Iron Man, and we hit the neighborhood, and I swear to God, that girl had a 5-pound bag of candy. It was wild. So I definitely went through her candy and found full-size candy bars in there. But it was cool because I found like sunglasses and like prizes and like toys, little spider rings. It wasn't just candy, so I liked that part of it. That was nice. So Halloween is now beyond us, which means it is gobble turkey season. And are you, Kendall? I have to know this. I don't know this about you, and I need to know this. When do you start decorating your house for Christmas?
Ooh, so I'm lazy about this, like for sure. Like as a kid, I never really helped out with my parents doing it, right? So I'm late. I'm like the latest to the game. It's getting embarrassing. I probably need to at some point. But that's the outside. If you're asking me when the inside happens, the first weekend, my wife is like, yeah, this will be a fun thing to do.
First weekend of what? December? Or like right now, right after Halloween?
Now, Christmas stuff, got to be after Thanksgiving. That's definitely our rule. All right. For sure after Thanksgiving. And usually not the first week after Thanksgiving. That's a little aggressive. 2 weeks removed, that is good.
Yeah, I have a pretty firm. So I'm Jewish, and I grew up in a house that did Hanukkah and Christmas, and I am my daughter's 4 years old. She believes in Santa Claus. We have a Christmas tree. We have the menorah. We do the whole thing. We're the modern day family, right? And I don't put anything up until after Thanksgiving. I also am a Scrooge. I do not like Christmas music. I know it's probably going to piss a lot of people off, but I don't get the Mariah Carey soundtrack and all the Jingle Bell rock going while I'm decorating the house. I just put on a podcast of music and decorate. So, yeah. But I am not going to go be buying a tree until after Thanksgiving and doing that. So no.
We can still be friends. That's good.
I'm good. Yeah, I'm glad, because I know there's some people that are like, oh, if Halloween's over, it's all right. I'm not kidding you. I was in Target. My daughter had a birthday party last weekend, and so I was in Target buying a present for the kid, and there was an entire Christmas aisle that was wiped out. I mean, it was empty. Like, people had already bought stuff, and I get that part of it, but those people are decorating, and I was like, come on, man. It's not even Thanksgiving. It's not even November technically. So, well, it was a big day in the NFL. It was the trade deadline, and I promise you all, we are going to get to some of these trades. There wasn't a ton of trades that impact Dynasty. There was some trades. Of course, the biggest trades were on the defensive side of the ball, and there was some monsters. Of course, Sauce Gardner getting traded, Quentin Williams. But I promise you, we will get to those for the listeners out there, and we will talk about what the implications are for fantasy. But Kendall and I have been talking about doing this show for a while, and I'm pretty stoked on it, because I think you and I get DMs all the time. We have people in our comments all the time asking, should I make this trade? Should I make that trade? And a lot of times those trades involve picks. And it's not just, vet for vet, right? And I think the reality of most people's decision-making process involves seeing the best deal and quote unquote winning the trade. If you ever go on Sleeper and you see the vote for this trade, it is almost always accompanied by, did I win this trade? And so Kendall and I have been talking for a long time about this show of what do these picks really mean? What is a value of a first round pick? What's the value of a second, a third? I know some Dynasty formats do fourth and fifth round. I don't love that. I think that's a little too late for me. But again, if you're a fan of the show, if you listen to the show, you know that I am a player who always plays for ceiling. So I'm not truly concerned with thirds, but Kendall has a different stance on that. He and I have always had good trades that involve third round picks in the dealings we've had. So we will get into all of those because I know some folks do like those thirds. I like to acquire them and trade them away. I don't like to pick with them, but that's okay too. So Kendall, I want to start with this because, you and I always talk about, 2 to 3 year window. When do you think is the ideal time to make a trade in a dynasty league? Let's just start there at the top, and then we'll get into some of the nuance of what these picks really mean. So when is the ideal time to make a trade?
Ideal time to make a trade. So the couple of windows that I'm looking for when I want to make a trade, it's really identifying, am I buying a player or am I looking to acquire a pick, right? So that's going to be two slightly different seasons. If I'm looking to acquire picks, right? First and foremost, I want to go middle of the season to a contender, right? Just real simply, the value overlay, and it's a win-win. The idea is a competing player is going to have holes in their lineup. They're going to have points per game problems. Fixing that is now valuable, where when the season started, everyone was healthy and their starting lineup was perfect. So there is no value in addition when they're buying a player. You're now solving a problem that didn't exist a few weeks ago, right? Which means that the value of what you're selling goes up a little bit. Most people are willing to overpay by a little bit to solve a real problem. And I think that's just fair fantasy football capitalism tax, right? So it's not even here's when to put one on your opponent. It's here's when the market will actively pay the most for it, and for good reason. So mid-season to a contender is when I want to go ahead and acquire picks because they're going to be a little bit less expensive. And then in reverse, when I want to go and acquire a player, right? I typically want to do that at or around the draft, usually at the draft or later, trade back and use players in that. Rookies are always going to be the super hot sizzle and whatnot. The veterans, and not even the veterans, it could be a guy that's 2-3 years into the league or whatever, but it's simply there's a new shiny object that we don't necessarily know how to value, but the fun thing is to value it a little bit higher. And the value overlay is it makes everything else a little less shiny by comparison. Your car in the parking lot isn't shiny like the other ones, so maybe a little bit more value. And also there's the hey, let's flip it around a little bit. If it's a neutral trade where you can get a little bit of value, it's a player you believe in, more people are going to be willing to do that at that point, just to kind of make it spicy. So those are the 2 points where I'm going to look to make things happen.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head, right? Like the shiny new object, the new toy in the garage, if you will. Your picks are never going to have a higher value than right before the draft, right? So if you let's just use this last year's draft class. The 101 it was Genty. It was not even a question. And I think we probably knew that a couple weeks earlier than the NFL draft in the dynasty circles, as long as Genty was the first non-quarterback off the board, which of course he was, then that would be the player. And that 101 suddenly becomes worth 1.5x, 2x what that can, be in September, in August, in camp. I think for me, that's when I'm looking to capitalize. And I know that takes patience because we want to make trades or we want to tank our team to acquire all the picks and, whatever it is that your preference is when you're looking at your roster construction. But you and I've talked about this a lot, and I think people need to hear this. Your picks, it's great to be the person in the league that has 6 first-round picks. That's awesome. You should be able to draft, and hopefully if half of those guys hit, you're in a great spot. If all of them hit, you're winning the league within 2 years, if not sooner. But not all those picks are going to hit. And at some point, those picks have to turn into something, right? And I know you and I play in a lot of leagues together. And historically, we've been in a couple leagues now. We're going on 3-4 years. And historically, you've been a big seller early on. And you've had 5-6 first-round picks. Some of those you've drafted. Some of those you've sold. And I like the structure and the strategy of the way you've had roster construction has been, do I want to take the risk on a player that I don't feel great about or I don't feel as confident about? That could be great or could be a complete bust. Or would I rather spend 2 of those firsts plus something to go get Bijan, a known, Amon-Ra, a known commodity that I can put into my lineup that's going to give me 15 as a floor and 30 as a ceiling and, in a PPR format. So I think it's interesting when people, talk about, when should I make, we've got a trade question here already in the comments. We'll get to that here in a minute, but should I make this trade? When should I make this trade? Make it when the value is going to be the highest, right? And so I think that's really important. This next question here is interesting because I've actually had this question in my own world, and I've been asked this several times. How do I know if I should, quote, go for it, meaning I should actually acquire players and sell my picks, or if it's better to just sell a piece or two to get ready for next year? And so I think for me, I'll start on this one here, Kendall. I'm really taking a look, again, Dynasty is in a 2 to 3 year window. I'm really taking a look at who I believe are the centerpieces of my team. So for this example, I'm going to use a single quarterback league because I think it's a little bit easier. If I have a quarterback that I feel really good about, and I don't feel like I need an upgrade, then I'm starting to look at, okay, next year's draft class. I think today you and I would probably agree. We believe Jeremiah Love is going to, as of today, a lot can change. I think we both would agree Jeremiah Love's probably the 101 in next year's draft. There's a couple wide receivers that I like that are risers that are going to come out that are going to be good, but I think Love is arguably the best player in college football, who's most NFL ready, who's going to translate. And so
plus scarcity, much like
running back scarcity.
It's going to be really easy to single him out as
Agreed.
He's really good, and there's a bunch of dudes, and
agreed. And I'll be honest, this is a heavy wide receiver and quarterback class. I don't know that this is a great running back class coming out here in 26. There's guys I like, but I think it's Love, and I think there's a gap. And this is one time that I'm going to say that I don't really know right now who the RB2 in this next rookie class is going to be. I am not a big fan of going for it. I'm not a big fan of going all in. It's not my style. It's not the way that I like to play. And here's why. If you miss on these picks and they bust, you can set your team back 2 or 3 years. Now, if you have a lot of high-priced players and you can sell to reacquire some picks later on, sure, that's fine. But again, you're taking those points off your roster. You're going into a soft rebuild at that point anyway. So I'm not a huge fan of mortgaging everything I have. And I've seen, sadly, countless examples of it not working, right? One of my main, if not my main Dynasty league, I made a trade 3 years ago, completely transformed my team. It's a start 2 quarterback league, two running backs, 3 receivers, half PPR. I traded Lamar Jackson away in a start 2 quarterback league, and everyone was like, what are you doing? How could you possibly do that? I got the 101. This is right before the draft. It was literally the day of the draft, actually. So I knew it was going to be Bijan. I had the 103, so I knew I could take Richardson, Stroud, or Young because I knew one of them would be there. And I got another piece back that I don't remember. I think it was a second rounder. So I got 2 firsts and a second for Lamar Jackson. Great price, right price. The guy was stoked because he got Lamar and he needed a quarterback desperately. I ended up getting Bijan, Anthony Richardson, but that's okay. And I don't remember what else I got. But I got another first out of it too. So I got a first the following year. I've won that league now twice back to back. And guess who I beat that year in the finals? In the championship game, the guy that I sold Lamar Jackson to. So he had no picks and he's struggling. And now his team's in a massive, massive rebuild because he mortgaged the farm. So I want to ask you, because I know you're in a league with me right now where you had 5 first-round picks. You sold several of those. You sold all of those, actually. What you got out of the deal was Jamar Chase and Puka. So you are the actual definition of going for it. Talk us through that decision, because that's different if you're getting Puka and Chase. There's not a lot of risk built in other than what we've seen. Joe Burrow misses the season, but Chase is still going to be a higher ceiling than most players, even without Joe Burrow. So for those that want to hear the go for it side, let's break that down for them, because I just broke down I'm a little bit hesitant to do it.
Sure. So there's like 2 things to be said here, right? That you could even say those aren't really even go for it trades, to be honest, mostly because the players I'm requiring are under 26.
That's fair.
25 or younger. So I'm really just capitalizing on pick value in a way that a controlled year ahead realization, right? At very little tax. Because of the age cliff, the bleed metric, all sorts of little nerdy words that I like to say. So it wasn't even like a super all in thing. What I definitely did though was when you pay full sticker price, when you buy Jamar Chase for 3 firsts, you can't draft 3 Lad McConkeys. You can't draft ASB and you can't, it's just 3. Where if you draft 3 first round picks, they can all be worth 2.5 firsts.
Yeah.
in a year or two, right? So you are losing on some potential. If you draft well, you're probably losing long-term value, but that value is probably over 6 years potentially. I mean, it's just too long. So
Yep.
that's where the all-inness, if you're saying it, you are capping long-term value on your roster, right? But when do you go all in, right? I think there's a couple questions to ask. One, how do you stack up against the top teams? Are there a couple like, dude, they're a problem. They're an actual fucking problem. And in that case, like you actually probably need them to hiccup. If there's a team or a couple of teams that are just too much of a problem, I'm not going for it because I think there's too much of a luck factor there where you can do all the things in the world and it might not go your way. And now it's just a bad situation, right? But, if it is a situation where, okay, the top guys are fragile, right? And so we're not going all in super early. If it's mid-season, we know records, we know injuries, we know depth, right? We can practically make some assumptions that like they're a little more fragile at the top than they think, right? They're gettable, right? So be cautious, right? I'm with you. I don't like to go for it almost ever. And in this league that you're mentioning, I only went for it because I intentionally decided in what you might call year zero, right? Year one. I say year zero because I'm talking preseason of year one before we had played any fantasy games. I sold half my team already and continued to do that intentionally with the whole plan of year 2 or 3. This is I think year 2 actually. Or maybe it's year 3. Is it 3?
Yeah.
So I kicked the can down for 2. So I had all the extra stuff.
Yeah.
That's actually a good question. Have you been in a situation where you have accrued, especially for me, lots of multiple seconds and thirds in addition? And what I mean by that is first are for your big buys. But what if you need fill-in help? What if injury and bye week? What if your team is disgusting, but you need to buy one more win because 2 of your top guys are on bye? Do you have an extra second to go get what you need? Right. My recent example was I had to go buy Alec Pierce. It was a bad trade, but I went for Mooney because he was pretty cheap. I just needed to fill in. Obviously that didn't work. Alec Pierce was fantastic. But if you don't have that extra second or that extra third to go make a cheap, flexible buy or the additional bench capital to make something happen, going all in is not about the one deal. It's what happens when that one deal is almost enough. You might have to piece together 2 to 3 trades to fully capitalize in the right way week to week over time. If you're just making one trade and you think you're good enough, you're probably not good enough. So do you have the extra war chest to go win the election should your opponent see what you're doing and decide to actively do the same? Does the best team in the league still have a first? Because they can use it, right? So this is a little bit of know your opponent, know your own setup, and make sure you have enough of a war chest to make it happen. Otherwise, we're going to talk about it. There's ways to accrue value in Dynasty. That's why you watch Phil's show. We're guys that lean on that side of things, and it's what we're good at. That's always there to accrue value. So be cautious when you do it. But those are 2 signals, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I like what you said, right? Like evaluating the top dogs in the league, like looking at some of like, does the other contender in the league still have their first? And I wasn't going to bring this up, and now that you said that, I will. Kendall and I are in a league. I run the league. It's called the Annexation of Puerto Rico, a little ode to the Little Giants film. For short, we call it Taper. And there was a big hour that just happened about 2 or 3 hours ago. It was a pretty hot hour, actually. And there was 2 trades, but they were monsters. And I'll start with one because I was a part of it. I am in this league 3-6. My points are, as of right now, I'm at the 102, 103. I have pieces, but I sold Kendall Josh Allen a couple weeks ago and downgraded into Jordan Love to get some other pieces. And I just felt like, okay, I'm probably not going to be able to go for it this season. It's not my year. And I sold Amon-Ra. And I sold Amon-Ra for a 26 first, which was my own first that I got back, which is now probably the 102, 103, potentially the 101, depending on how the rest of the season goes. But it will for sure be in the first 3 picks, a 27 first and Matthew Golden. So pretty stoked on that trade. And then that same player who just acquired, that same manager who just acquired Amon-Ra for me, sold a 27 first to get Chase Brown and a 26 third back. So he is the definition of all in. And I'm just going to pull it really quickly to make sure. He now has the 26. He has 3 26 thirds and 2 27 thirds. That's all he has left.
No firsts, no seconds.
No firsts, no seconds for the next 2 years. And it's a great team. I mean, this team's loaded. He should win, but if he doesn't, you've missed the boat, and now you have no way to. He's gonna have to sell some of those pieces in order to get picks back, or just live and die by this for the next 2 years, right? And so to me, like, that is the true definition of going for it. And for his sake, I hope he wins the league. Like, I mean, that would just be the purpose of why he made all. That was my mic.
Yep, Mike. Mike run out. Oh man, I hear you. Yeah, go ahead. I got you from here for a little bit. If you get a pop on back. So yeah, no, that I'm completely with you on that too. And it's funny because in that league specifically, right? So me and Phil are in that league. A buddy of ours is it. So I kind of went all in first. I went from I'm not doing anything to okay, I've got 9 picks. Now I build a team. It's fun because you're playing against me and Phil, so they want to beat us. Phil's kind of kicking it down the can. So it's the entire buy was based on trying to beat me. So he should win. This is also the same league I bought Chase and Puka in. So fun times. But it was this. All those trades were in reaction to I bought Puka, I bought Chase, and I'm saying I'm putting the exclamation point. Then I do the deal for Phil with Allen, where I paid a pretty handsome price, but it made sense situationally. And then in response to that, right, this was. And I'm not saying it was good or bad with what he was doing, but I am saying cautiously this may be I want to say cautionary tale because the players he bought were young. If the players were a little bit older, I would think it was a little suicidal. But because he bought young players, it made sense. He's looking at his competition and saying, I really want to beat Kendall. He's got a ridiculous team. I'll kind of go all into. It was a fun reason, not a super logical. I definitely think these trades are going to put me over the top because my team's ridiculous as well, right? So it's almost an example of he's having fun with it. He absolutely knows that he can take a nosedive and he's got no more resources, right? But it is fun, and he's going to have the best or second best team in the league for quite some time. But to your point, he is completely all in. I still have a couple seconds left. I can package I can package a couple seconds and a third to get back up into a first. I could make sure that first was middle of the road and things could happen. He would have to sell actual production at this point. So he's probably going to have the roster he's going to have for 2 years and then fully reset. But yeah, how's the mic?
Yeah, I think it's fine. I don't know if you can hear me. I assume you can
good.
hear me.
No, perfect.
The headphones here. I don't know what just happened there. It's funky. But yeah, I think there's definitions, and I did a show on this 2 years ago. I did, how to rebuild your team, or what to do if you're in a rebuild, basically. But I think there's definitions of a soft rebuild and a full rebuild. Right. And if soft rebuild in my definition means you've got some pieces to build around and you've got some picks to add to that, a full rebuild is you probably have one player at each of the respective skill positions that are your anchors, and you've got a ton of picks, or at least you should. So, I think it's really a question of like how you want to build and what your roster construction is like, as opposed to, am I all in, or am I just maybe going to sell one piece to try to get some points off my roster to make my own first round pick a little bit closer to the front of the line. And I still have some pieces that I can actually use next season versus fire sailing. Everything's got to go half off sale. Let's get into this question, Kendall, because this is the meat of the show. What are my picks actually worth? And I think this is what people want to know. And so when Kendall and I, look, I'm not sitting here and poo-pooing Keep Trade Cut. I think it can be a valuable resource. I know everybody loves it. And I think the problem that Kendall and I have had with it, and we've expressed with it, is when you live and die by it, right? And I think this is what a trade calculator is meant to do. It is meant, in my opinion, a trade calculator is not meant for you to evaluate this trade as to be 100% fair. And if, I'm whatever Keep Trade Cut, requires you to add into the trade to make it perfectly fair. Like, most trade calculators just want you to win the trade. What I use a trade calculator for, and I use trade calculators. I'm not sitting here saying don't use trade calculators, but I don't like the people that only live and die by them. And I really hate, Kendall, and you know this. I really hate when someone, there's always a guy in your league that sends you the screenshot. But Keep Trade Cut says this is a fair trade. Yeah, but you sent me 18 fucking players for Josh Allen. Sorry, that doesn't make it doesn't, just because the math doesn't make it the right trade. I think what people want in a trade calculator, and what I use a trade calculator for, is to make sure that I am not getting taken. And I think most people know what the obvious, like, oh, I'm getting, sold a bale of goods, the sneaky, snake oil salesman, car salesman approach, right? If I send you if I send you Savion Williams and I ask for Josh Allen back, you're getting taken to the car wash, right? To the cleaners, whatever phrase you want to use. But if I send you Josh Allen and it's going to help you win the league, and you send me back Devonta Smith and Brock Purdy, and what else did you give me in that trade? I don't remember off the top of my head. I just remember those
For
two
Allen,
pieces.
it was a first, Devonta Smith and Purdy, and I think you got one other piece, maybe a tiny pick involved. But the main things were, it was Purdy, a first, and Devonta Smith.
But I gave you the number one scoring player in fantasy the last 3 years in a row, who probably puts you over the top in a position to win the league. So did you overpay? Yeah, you probably did a little bit. But if you win that championship, are you ever going to remember that you overpaid? No, of course not.
I mean, that was the conversation. I think we were pretty much at like, hey, this is probably maybe like a second of like objective value, but it wins me the league. And it's also one of those, like, it just stylistically makes sense. I don't ever want a perfect, I do want a perfect deal, but I'll do plenty of,
sure,
this is just a fair deal in leagues we're in with like fans, because I want a league ecosystem to have a lot of just good neutral deals. I can't be in a league where I like smoke 3 deals because it's lopsided. It's not fun. And I want to be in a fun league. Even if it means I don't win.
No one's going to want to trade with you after that.
Yeah, you've pretty much.
That's the other point, right? So it's like this trade was Devonta Smith, Brock Purdy, a third and a first in 27. Both the picks are in 27. So if we blindly took the names out of it and we said, what is Josh Allen worth? He's probably worth 2.5 first-round picks. So what did I get? A 27 first. That's one. Devonta Smith, I think we both have a low back-end first-round pick on him. That's 2. Brock Purdy's probably worth a second-round pick. That's a half, and he threw in the third. So I don't think it's that much of an overpay. And this is why I get frustrated with people on the whole trade calculator thing, and why I get frustrated every time I read a comment of like, did I win the deal? If the trade makes your team better, you won the trade. That is the answer to your question. Did I win the trade? If the trade makes your team better, you won the trade. So what are my picks worth? I want to spend some time on this, Kendall. Like, to me, I don't know how you do this, but this is my approach. In a 10-team league, in a 12-team league, I break these picks down into quarters. So I'm looking at the first 3 picks, and let's use a 12-team because I think most people play in a 12-team league. I'm looking at the first 3 picks in the first round as your ideal top-tier premium players. And then I'm looking at the next 3 and the third, right? Picks 7, 8, 9, right? Or 8, 9, 10, excuse me. No, 7, 8, 9. So I had to write. Sorry, I had to write.
7, 8, 9, and then into 12.
Right. That's where I'm looking at. Okay, the mid firsts, you're going to have a guy in there that hits. Emeka Ibuka was the 106, 107, 108 this season. That's where he was drafted. Travis Hunter, 102. As of right now, Travis Hunter, I think we did a redraft show a couple weeks ago. I don't think he got picked in the first round, nor should he have been. Right. But when I'm looking at what these picks are worth, I am saying to myself, who of these players is the most premium value? And in my opinion, and there's data to back some of this up, because we know after the first round of the draft, the percentage that these players hit in the NFL starts decreasing. I believe that there are about 6 to 7 players in every single draft that are the premium players. And after that, your first round pick might as well be a second round pick. Because I'm going to ask you, and I'm going to prove my point right here. Do you want Matthew Golden on your roster right now today? Yes or no?
Do I want him on my roster?
Yeah. Would you? If I just said, I'm giving Matthew Golden for free. I'm going to give you Matthew Golden for free. Do you want him?
I would love him.
Do you want to pay the 106 for Matthew Golden?
No.
Why not?
Because on average, an average 106 is going to be not necessarily more talented prospect profile wise, but it is going to be in a better situation than he is in currently, and his career arc is going.
Okay. Do you want Caleb Johnson on your roster for free?
Yes.
Do you want to pay the 109 for Caleb Johnson?
God, no.
Do you want to pay the 205 for Caleb Johnson?
At this point, no.
Do you want to pay anywhere in the second round for Caleb Johnson?
Yeah. Yes, I do.
Okay. In the back half of the second round.
Correct.
So this is what I'm starting to get at. My picks, even in the first round, are not worth, with the percentage of hit rate that we have seen for players, are not worth what you think that they are worth. And you're going to say, but Phil, you've given countless examples on the show of how you drafted Devon Achane in the second round. Sure, I did. And that's not a flex. That's a yes, I drafted Achane in the second round. But to be fair, go back and look at that draft. There were 3 players in that draft in the second round out of 12 that you actually want on your roster right now. Rasheed Rice was one of them. Achane was the other, and I have to go back and look because I just got my own brain twisted up here. But that's my point, right? So it's when you are looking blindly at an inbox and you see that trade, right? To your point earlier, like I want some of these seconds, I want some of these thirds, and someone's like, oh, I've got to have first rounders. I only want first round. Okay. People are reluctant to trade their first rounders because there's I don't have a first round pick. I'm screwed. But your 107, your 108 isn't that much different than your 201. It's not. And I'll prove my point again right here. In a 12-team league, in a 10-team league, the 201 is the 11th pick in the draft, which is a first-round pick in a 12-teamer. So if I were to offer you, Kendall, for Amon-Ra St. Brown, a late first-round pick, an early second-round pick, but you knew it was the 201, and another piece, let's say a veteran player on top of that, insert player here, Rashid Shaheed. I'm going to offer you Shaheed, a late first, and the 201. Would you take that trade?
I'm selling ASB?
Yeah.
It's very team to team. I'll say that. I probably want to touch more because I don't like Shaheed all that much.
Okay,
but we're getting close.
The
idea is
we're
ballparking here. My counter would be I want something a little more interesting on top of Shaheed for sure. Between running back or wide receiver, what's pretty interesting? Throw me Alec Pierce on top. I'm gonna ask for third because I always ask for third. I'm gonna ask for it every fucking time. But throw me an Alec Pierce too. Throw me give me a I'll still take a Braylon Allen in something, right?
I'll give you Braylon Allen, Alec Pierce, the 201 and a first for Amon-Ra. You want that trade?
Insert interesting piece that I would value at approximately a second, but is interesting and has upside. Yeah, I'm good.
I don't think a lot of people are taking that trade because they don't see multiple first-round picks and they see a late first-round pick. And that's my point. We just did a hypothetical trade on this show where you're getting your first-rounder. The 201 in a 10-team league is a first-rounder in a 12-team league. It's still inside the top 12, the top 15 picks. Because I believe after the first 15 picks in any league, the value drops off. You're looking at that point for one player. Maybe there's 2 players that you really like that could be that diamond in the rough. But you're as you and I like to say, you're hitting dart. It's a dart throw at that point, right? I've given the example that I drafted Achane the pick before Jonathan Mingo was taken, and I had buyer's remorse, and I was about ready to trade Achane for Mingo. Thank God I didn't, and I was patient and calmed myself down. But that's my point. There are more Jonathan Mingos in the second round than there are Devon Achanes. Right?
Tremendous, especially at wide receiver.
Especially wide receiver, right? And so there are less Cam Scadaboos in the late second round, right? Then there are Caleb Johnsons and RJ Harveys going in the middle of the first round because you did your draft in August instead of doing it in April. And so I think that's the caveat is everybody wants to see in their inbox the number 1 instead of the number 2. But if I could give myself 3 or 4 seconds as dart throws, I'd rather have that over one pick in the 109 to 112 region, because the chances that I find that Achane are higher than the chances that I hit on Ibuka. Because if I told you right now today that you get to redo the draft, are you taking Travis Hunter in the first round?
I mean, I'm so buried in Travis Hunter. This take stings me to the core because I am so over invested in that piece of shit.
But that's my point. Is you're
But
frustrated.
no,
You're
yeah,
mad.
yeah.
You're mad. I didn't touch him because I knew he would play defense, and that's why I was like, his ceiling is lower, and I play for ceiling. Right. And so it's like, and I'm also, I've said it a million times on this show, I'm okay being wrong. I'm okay saying I don't want this player. I don't like his profile. I don't like his production, whatever it is that I don't like about him coming out in the draft process. And I am okay when this player hits and I don't have my roster doing two things, saying I was wrong. That's okay. And then going and trading for him. Like, that's the beauty of Dynasty, is you don't have to you'd rather get your draft picks right, but you don't have to, because you can go and draft these, you can go and trade for these players that you didn't draft later on. So
that is what I did with Hunter. I definitely didn't draft him, and then I bought him for cheaper, but cheap was not cheap. Cheap was still too expensive.
Players rise and fall in value.
Process was correct, though. The process made sense, kind of.
The perfect example, and I know that this is a thin example because there's only one of him, and there's really, in my recent memory, this is the only player that fits this description. Quentin Johnston was left for dead. I think you could, I'm not kidding, I think you could have, in this summer, I think you could have acquired, if you wanted Cuge, I think you could have got him for fab. I don't even think you would have had to trade a third-round pick to get him. So, and now I've seen him going for seconds and firsts again.
Yeah.
So it's like, players rise and fall in value all the time. And I'm not talking about injury. I'm just talking, now Cuge is an outlier example because he literally came back from the dead. So what I want to do, and we just got a question in the chat about this actually, and I'm going to pull this here because I wanted to turn this over to you. At Sites to Show You says, late to the party, fellows, what's the best position to target in second round that hit more often? Right. I want to answer that, but I also want to talk about the value of second and third round picks, because I just said the late first round picks are not as valuable as you think they are, just because that number one is next to that draft pick position. Sure, you'd rather have it than a third round pick, but it's still not it is not the premium player that the first 3 or 4 guys are in each of these drafts. So Kendall, talk us through the value of some second and third round picks, and then let's answer this question for Sites to Show You here.
Yeah. So, you want my how I value?
Yeah, let's do the value.
What position would I be targeting?
Let's do the value of the second and third round picks, and then we'll answer this question together here at the end.
Value of second and third round picks. Yeah. So second round picks for me, on average, right, are worth, like, I think an average first is worth about 3 seconds, approximately. It's pretty close to it. An average second, I want approximately 2.5 to 3. All these are shaded by about half a pick, right? Pretty close to it. So if I'm trading up to the 106 or something along those lines, about 3 seconds, and I think we're having the right conversation. 2 seconds and a third, depending on a little this or that, a little bit higher, a little bit lower. I think that's kind of where I'm at with it. In terms of how many thirds is a mid-second worth, I think it's approximately like 2.75, if that kind of makes sense, right? I somewhere between 2.5 and 2.75 is about where I have it. Not full 3, because I think the values are starting to converge between 2 and 3, where they're closer apart than they are different. So you don't need the full 3. And then that flips a little bit 3 to 4. I think a third can be worth like 4/4 in some situations, because roster size is a real issue where infinite fourths are not infinite value. So there is a cap. The 413 is free. The 412 costs something, right? But it does have an end to it. So that's just approximately them compared to each other. Then I think you can probably give that a little bit of a 10-20% modifier based on what's your opponent's situation, your situation. Takes 2 to tango. It's always going to make sense. So that's approximately there. Like some player values that are like targeted, or I want to make sure I'm answering the question specifically for chat, if that makes sense. Because there's so many players I could pull out that are like archetypal for this and that. The running back that got taken in the 3rd or 4th round, but the backfield still stays pretty murky. They're clearly going to get some sort of an opportunity, but haven't quite shown it yet. That's a stereotypical second round pick, right? It's the same thing you drafted RB in the 2nd round. So Braylon Allen for me is like a second round pick right now. I know he's on IR. I know that's a thing, but
that's
we
Dynasty.
know he's going to get a shot at a timeshare within a year, right? He's Woody Marks kind of before Woody Marks, right? So that's kind of a standard second. At wide receiver, a second rounder is either a productive veteran that is basically dead and you're paying for a good 1 year rental, right? Or it is an underperforming late first round pick, basically, right? It's a wide receiver that we all thought was better and they're just in a rough situation, but they still could do something. I'll give you a second. We can maybe you can salvage it, right? Something along those lines. I don't have too many specific examples. A lot of wide receivers are worth 2 seconds, not 1, right? 1 second is usually kind of a cheap price for something. It's they still have some value, but no one's excited about it, right? Just to give you some monikers of kind of how that feels.
Yeah. So I just pulled a draft. I'm going to get to it in a second. I want to answer this question for sites to show you. Again, late to the party, fellows. What's the best position to target in the second round that hit more often? It's wide receivers. And the running backs, here's why I want why I want wide receivers in the second round and not running backs. Running backs get pushed up the board because it is a running back scarce league. There are more wide receivers available. The PPR value of a wide receiver in the second round on paper is going to have, if they both were equal, is going to have a higher points per game value than a running back because it's a PPR league and the touches value is going to be there. The other piece is, and I just said it, is guys get pushed up the board, but people are so starved for running back that they reach. And here, I'm going to give you some examples. Okay. This is a 12-team, single quarterback, full PPR league. Here's the first round. Genty, Hampton, Henderson, Hunter, McMillan, Judkins, Egbuka. First 7 picks. Great. I don't have any problems with that. Pretty standard, pretty chalky, comparable to what the draft was. This is also a league that drafts that first weekend, like most Dynasty drafts do, that draft right after the NFL draft is complete. I'm going to read you 8 through 12, and you are going to, well, don't throw up. Let's just say that. Caleb Johnson, RJ Harvey, Cam Scadaboo, Luther Burden, Matthew Golden. That is hard for me to look at and read because of the 5 players that I just named. There is only one that I believe should be drafted in the first round of a 12-team league. Because you'll notice I didn't say Tyler Warren and I didn't say Colston Loveland. So if you are the guy who drafted Caleb Johnson at the 108, as of today, it could change. Of course, it can change. It's Dynasty, but as of today, you set that pick on fire. If you drafted Luther Burden at the 111 with Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland and Mason Taylor still on the board, you set that pick on fire. So, and here's the second round. Ready? Trey Harris, Tyler Warren, Colston Loveland, Jaden Higgins, Cam Ward, Jack Beck, Terrace Ferguson, Jalen Knoll, Jalen Royals, Kyle Williams, Devin Neal, Pat Bryant. 1 running back was taken. 1. And this was a pretty heavy running back class, and they all got pushed up the board in that first round. So now, again, none of these guys have really hit yet. Trey Harris hasn't done anything. Higgins hasn't done much. Cam Ward is awful. Jalen Knoll's been better than Higgins. Royals, Williams, and Bryant. So we don't know yet. But at the end of the day, this is my point. After that first 15 players, they're kind of all dart throws. Your value isn't, and this is why it's like, guys, so I wanted to bring this up. I'm certainly not going to name this guy because he is in my league and he could be listening right now. I made an offer, Kendall, for Amon-Ra. I offered straight up for Amon-Ra 2 firsts and a third. Thoughts on that trade? If I were to offer you that to buy Amon-Ra off of you, to give you 2 firsts and a third. It's certainly not an insulting offer.
No, not an insulting offer.
And I don't think he didn't take it, but I don't think it's that far off. In fact, I think it's pretty darn close to the right valuation. I think we would probably both agree Amon-Ra is worth 2 to 2.5 firsts.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the quick question of like, is it 10 or is it 12? You can go to all the typical things,
sure,
right? But like the main idea is if the picks are good, it's probably a pretty good deal,
Solid offer, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think no one's taken the other person to task.
Here's
right?
what I got back as a counter. He wanted a first, a third, and a Mecha Ibuka.
Well,
And I said,
that's a little
reject,
a little bit
and this
aggressive there.
conversation is over. Because at that point, I don't want to say it's greed, but it's like, I don't know, in a vacuum, sure, Amon-Ra is better than Ibuka. But when we go to a startup draft next year, let's not talk about, I know you and I are obviously big auction drafters, but let's just go to a snake draft, because I think that's the vast majority of folks are doing that type of a draft. I don't think Ibuka is going to be drafted that much further below Amon-Ra at the wide receiver position.
Yeah, I mean, if you go tier based, they're going to be in similar tiers, right? They're going to be close.
He's in the tier. I think he's in the tier right below Amon-Ra. I think Amon-Ra's in tier 2, and then I've got Ibuka in tier 3. We talked about it last week, right? We said we would put JSN at wide receiver 6, and I have Ibuka at wide receiver 7 in a startup right now.
Yeah, and ASB is sitting there at like 4 or 5 for a
4 or
lot of
5.
people.
So it's like,
right?
I'm saying, you're talking about 2 or 3 receivers off. So that's what I'm saying. Like, at the end of this whole thing, that to me is an overpay.
Yeah, I have always like trade etiquette problems with the trade, because like, why the third? At a minimum, if what you're trying to verbally say is, I'm looking for a first. If you're looking to tier, I need a first attached to it. It's just part of my price, right? I get that, but why are you throwing a third on there too, right? Like the way that deal gets done is like a lot of deals get done because you do have to be willing to give up a first every now and again, because the allure of a first is sometimes needed to get someone off the couch, right?
And that's the point.
But at that point, you say, okay, here's the base trade. It's I'm getting Ibuka and a first. And then the conversation is what you're getting back in return, in addition to Amon-Ra, right? That's when you're doing the, like, I get a first, I'll throw you back a second, but I'm getting the first. This is happening, right? And you're not going to like it, but I think that's where a conversation can start. When you're throwing Ibuka on top of the first and then the third, that conversation's over. It doesn't.
But that's my point, right? Like, I would pay right now 2 firsts for Ibuka, and I would pay 2 to 2.5 firsts for Amon-Ra. And I think those are both fair trades and fair valuations. Sure, you can get in the nuance, PPR, half PPR, 10 team, 12 team, all of that stuff. But like, quarterback passing doesn't matter because it's a wide receiver. Tight end premium doesn't matter because it's a wide receiver. Sure, that could impact the picks. But like, I don't see that much of a difference right now, because Mike Evans isn't there right now. And it probably won't be next year. I know he's is he under contract next year? Or is this the last year of his deal? I don't remember off the top of my head. I think next year's the last year of his deal. I think he's a 3-year.
Yeah, he's got one more year.
I think it was a 3-year, one more. But Ibuka has proven, unless he has a BTJ type sophomore season and just, decides to pull a Houdini and frickin' disappear, like, there's just not too many rookies or second-year receivers that I would put in that category ahead of him right now. So my point is this, right? And this is from someone who is normally more of a seller than a buyer. And when I do buy, I don't buy ever. I don't go all in. I think when I answer this question of like, what are my picks really worth? If you have a top 5 pick in the first round, that is a valuable pick. If you are in the 6, 7, 8 range, that is still a valuable pick. If you are in the 9 to 12 range, I believe you can go and buy a good player, because someone will see the number 1 in that trade offer, whatever it is, and get excited because it's a first. But here are names from a 12-team draft: Johnson, Harvey, Burden, Golden.
In previous years, this is Trey Benson. This is Brooks.
Benson and Brooks, great examples.
Yeah, and there's a lot of those Benson and Brooks examples when you go
Lots
back
of
even previous years, but where there's clearly an end of a tier break and scarcity starts to take over versus just be, your best player available draft and need.
And that's why I say, like, when you look at your own roster, don't be afraid to sell a late first, because that player has almost as likely a hit rate as a fail rate as that guy you're going to get 5 or 6 picks later in the second round. But it entices the buyer to go, ooh, I'm getting a first, or ooh, I'm getting 2 firsts. I mean, yeah, you are. And sure, you're closer to the front of the line, but you're not getting the 103. You're not. And I spent the 103 2 years ago on Anthony Richardson in a start 2 quarterback league, and I am grumpy about it.
Yep. Yep. I mean, hey, sometimes you light a pick on fire, man.
Sometimes you miss. So it happens. I wanted to ask you this question as we kind of, because this actually someone's asked this as well. How do you position your best offer for acceptance? I think we kind of just talked about that a little bit, but I said that selling a late first round is enticing to the buyer because they see that number one, they get excited. I know, Kendall, historically you like those second and third round picks. Is there something that you like to add, or something that you need to see that is kind of obviously in sales 101 you never start with your best offer, but is there something that kind of when you're offering a trade out and you're positioning this trade of like, okay, we've gone back and forth on 2 or 3 counters, this is what gets it done? Do you have a secret sauce to position that offer that you think, all right, this is the one that gets it done for me?
Yeah, be willing to take something that's clearly painful for you and clearly attractive for them, right? And then make sure you're also getting enough medicine back for it.
Yeah.
But putting the thing on the block. Let me give you a cheaper example of like a recent deal that I got done. Hyper tight end premium league. I mean, you start 2 and it's tight end premium. So super ultra tight end. Juwan Johnson's like ridiculously startable in that format, right? But he's 29. Contender needs it, right? I'm trying to get max value, right? So I fully tax him, right? I was trying to sell him for a 4th at some point, right? I asked him straight up for a second. It's going to be 211, 212 for sure, right? Dead second. But I'm asking for a second for Juwan Johnson, right? Crazy, right? I know that's not happening, but I'm just letting him know straight up it's not cheap. So your question, how do you position that to get done? He's got Jonathan Taylor. I like Giddens. I don't want to get rid of Giddens. It does hurt me, but I know he didn't ask for Giddens, but the thought of putting Giddens in a trade, letting him see it, it's going to be really hard for him to see not having Giddens, not having that JT insurance. It's a whole different thing for him right now. And I can throw Giddens on there, and I also ended up getting 2 4ths back in addition, just basically saying, hey, I like Giddens. And again, I like these 4ths. This is a league where because you're starting 2 tight ends, you kind of needed these extra picks to pick random crap like that for tight end. So to answer your question, how did I position it? I did an aggressive ask, but I always knew in the back of my head I was going to take a hit on a player that they're spicy, but they're low value.
Yeah.
But to that team, it's like, why would you not want to have Giddens? Giddens makes Taylor untouchable. It just locks that in. So it's now worth more to him. And it's also me giving up a young, like it's a painful thing to get rid of. It's not something that I'm looking to make happen. So how do you position? Look at the other guy's roster, find a situation that if you were in their shoes, I mean, it would be difficult to now see walking away from the table because so many things are happening that are attractive.
Yeah.
You're going to be willing to give that person an extra 10% tax because they were willing to do something. That the second little point to that, Phil, is when you have someone actively at the table, be the trade partner that's willing to engage in a cool, fun way where you're going to sell more than they even wanted to buy. Right. In this case, that's how I pulled that little trade off, but I knew what I was doing and it got done pretty fast. So
yeah, I'm usually of the mindset that I try to add to a position that they are thin at. And we talked about this last week because we had a question come up. I think there was a question involving Bucky and Rachaad White. And I said, look, buying a handcuff is fine, but it's not always the perfect idea. To your point about Giddens and JT, Giddens is different because he's a rookie. He's a young player, like on a like he's going to be there.
Giddens rookie, yeah,
right,
up.
Yeah. So it's like getting a rookie on a contract, but like Rachaad White could get traded. Like Rachaad White has enough value. Jordan Mason, like if you were like, oh, I've got Jordan Mason to back up Christian McCaffrey. No, you don't, because he got fucking traded. You know what I mean? So it's like, I'm not always a fan of buying the handcuff, or in this case, trying to add the handcuff of like the insurance policy. I'm not saying you're wrong. I totally understand the idea behind it, but I think you have to look at, like, Giddens makes sense because he's not going anywhere. If you have Bucky and you're trying to insure Rachaad White, that's fine for this season, especially this season because Bucky's missed so much time. But like, there is a world where Rachaad White is not on the Buccaneers next year. There's a very real world where he is not on the Buccaneers next year and he goes somewhere else because he's got, look at Chuba. Chuba just lost his job and he has a contract. And we talk about contracts being king in Dynasty and volume being king, obviously, but like contracts are king in Dynasty. Chuba just lost his job to a guy on a 1-year deal. That hurts. So I think that's the other piece is like when you're looking at adding something, my secret sauce for trades is like positioning my best offers. Like, all right, I don't really want to give this guy up, but like you really need a running back. And I guess I could do this to, get that. And like, and it's not negative selling. It's just, that's the truth of it. Like, all right, I'll add this because you need a running back and I can afford to, part or whatever, receiver, tight end, whatever it is. So.
Yeah. The bigger point is you got to be willing to sell, right? Be willing to lean into what the other person wants to do a little bit harder than you were prepared to do. Just know how to massage that on the other side of it. You can't just ask nakedly, right? Massage it as you go. But
I would just add this as like the kind of bring it home moment before we jump into the B segment here and talk about some real trades that happened in the league today. You are not going to quote unquote win every trade. You're going to make some bad trades. You're going to make some great trades. That's just the way it goes. Like you are not going to sit here and just collect value on every single trade that you make and every trade that for so many reasons, right? Guys rise and fall in value. Injuries happen. It like there's just, all of a sudden coaching changes. Breece Hall went from being a can't miss top 5 locked and loaded running back. This is the guy. He's young. He's a rookie. He's on a rookie deal. He's going to be great forever. All of a sudden, the coaching changes. They draft Braylon Allen, and now Breece wants. I mean, it's a disaster.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just a disaster. So I think when you look at things like that, you just have to be okay with saying, look, does this trade make my team better for what I'm trying to accomplish this season or next? And if it does, make the trade because you're going to, quote unquote, there's going to be some stinkers and there's going to be some golden goose eggs in there. So speaking of trades, Mr. Myers has finally gotten his wish and left Sin City. Jacoby Myers traded to the Jaguars. I don't want to spend a ton of time on these trades, but let's start with this one because I do think this one's interesting. BTJ has forgotten how to play football. He's got the yips. Travis Hunter is on IR. Parker Washington has become the receiver to own in Jacksonville. What is Jacoby Myers' outlook, Kendall, for the rest of this season? And I would assume next, but let's just stick with this season because he's a Jaguar for right now, and people are buying to get ready for the playoffs, for the fantasy playoffs. So Jacoby Myers to the Jaguars, fantasy value, dynasty value.
Sure. My take personally is I think Jacoby Myers is a true NFL player. I like him. He's talented. So he's my investable piece there. I'm probably higher than market on him. I actually like him in that role. The thing to watch, I would prefer not to buy. I'd like to wait. I'm spicy enough on him that I'll buy just because I think he's good and I think he's needed. The thing to watch for is the slot snap percentage. So I'd like to wait a week. That's going to be really interesting.
Yeah.
If Jacoby Myers just is their slot guy, Parker was doing a lot better when he was able to do that slot. If he gets pushed, it's really bad for Parker and it's really good for Jacoby. If they did bring him in to be a slot guy, that's going to be huge. If he's doing a little more perimeter stuff, it could be a little bit dicier. I'm a buy on him. I actually think he's going to be quite good for the team. And we know that even BTJ is not commanding enough targets right now is a big thing. He's still a deep play, big thing that none of it's connecting. They need someone to soak up these targets. That's why De'Ami Brown and Parker Washington are having these 10 target games occasionally, sporadically, but it's because the way football works, you just need someone to take these interim PPR targets. I think Jacoby could do that in an offense that doesn't have to be completely terrible. And I think people put points up on him. So I do like Jacoby Myers. I would buy him. Parker Washington, I think, is a mini sell for me, though, because I do think Jacoby kind of eats his lunch, and I think he feels better than he is.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to go the complete opposite way on this. I think this is the right time to buy BTJ.
I actually think so, too. I'm not on Hunter, but... We've never seen it from Hunter. We've seen it from BTJ. It existed last year.
Like, we've seen one game from Hunter. We saw one. I'm not even going to go so far as to call it a breakout because it wasn't a breakout. It was, to me, a breakout is like 2 or 3 games. This is one good game that we saw from him, and then he goes and gets the bye week and then gets injured in practice. So, like, BTJ has had an atrocious season. You and I were chatting in the green room and we were talking on the phone today. And I said, I think BTJ at the end of this season is the news will come out of like he was injured all year. He had some sort of, it wouldn't be the first time an NFL player had some sort of secretive surgery in the offseason that they didn't tell us about, some cleanup procedure that they didn't disclose, and all of a
Coach literally
sudden
got
it's like,
called out for like, hey, why are you not reporting this?
that's what I mean. Like, do you remember when the Cowboys were on Hard Knocks 3 or 4 years ago, and they were like, oh, the intro of the show was Dak saying like, oh yeah, I had a second ankle surgery, and everybody was like, what? We thought we knew you had the one ankle surgery after the horrific. Oh yeah, it was like,
that was crazy.
It was such a great Hard Knocks. That and the John Gruden "I'm into ending your dreams" speech, probably the two biggest like gotcha surprises of Hard Knocks. It was like, I'm into ending fucking nightmares. I'm trying to win the Super Bowl, not the Peach Bowl. And I was like, go get him, Coach Gruden. So I think now's the right time to buy BTJ. It's been awful. Jacoby coming in, you're talking about eating Parker Washington's lunch. I think there's people that are saying this is bad news for BTJ. The only reason people are maybe not thinking that is because Hunter's going on IR, but I would go lob a late first and
throw. You got to throw something on top. So
yeah, that's why I stopped myself in mid sentence there. It's like, what else would I give on top of that? I don't know. I'd throw a late first and like a depth piece running back, and see, or a late first and a depth wide receiver. You know, because you're getting a wide receiver out, give him a wide receiver back.
Yeah, throw him Brashard Smith.
Yeah, Brashard Smith and BTJ. Brashard Smith and a late first for BTJ. You might get that done. And
if they counter and they want a second with it, figure it out. Figure out what you want to do. I'm almost ready to invest in at that price too. Actually, I think.
Yeah,
I would do the first and second as long as it's an early first.
Yeah, I mean it's bad news right now.
I'll tell you what, it's a greater example of we were talking about like Ladd's getting overdrafted, but he's in a good team. He had this big ebb and flow of like he crashed a little bit. Huge was the hot. People were buying Huge for a first. Still might be okay. I thought there was like a mini window to buy Ladd because he was a little too cheap and he'll clearly be involved. This is worse than that. This is a long extended period of time for an offense that will clearly change. Yeah, I'm really with you, B. I think BTJ is a world-class buy right now.
Yep, agreed. Let's talk about Rashad. Good Lord, Phil. Rashid, try that again. Rashid Shaheed to the I can't do it. I have to call them the Sea Chickens. I'm contractually obligated as a Niners fan. Look, Torrey Horton's been awesome. I tried to buy Torrey. I told you this story today, so story's not for you.
He was so sick in college.
This is for the listeners. I tried to buy Torrey Horton today. It got kicked back. I wasn't offended. It was a solid offer. I don't even remember what I offered it, but it was a good offer. And the guy was like, no, I see Horton as the future. And, you know, I'm into it. And I was like, that's fine. And it's in our new league, the Football Network. And there's some heavy hitters in that league. You and I are in there with some other guys that are podcasters and like pretty sharp. So I was like, fine. And that's why I offered like a fair trade. And to be fair, the guy was just like, no, I'm going to keep him. Like I see the future.
He likes him. He's into him.
And I was like, yeah, that's the right answer if you're not going to take it. And literally 10 seconds later, the Rashid Shaheed news broke. And I told the dude, I was like, well, guess Shaheed's going to the Seahawks. He had no idea. And he was like, oh, rah, rah, rah. And I was like, so that's my question, right? What is this Rashid Shaheed with JSN on a rookie deal, not going anywhere? Sam Darnold playing great football again this season, looking like he's certainly going to retain his job for next year. What does this do to Torrey Horton? Or does it?
I think it makes it a stronger buy for me in Dynasty, right? Because I'm buying the long-term production from him. He's getting a great quarterback, and I'll say great at this point. I mean, there's no reason not to.
Yeah,
a competent front office, like a stable, good, positive situation that there's just not a lot of other mouths. I'm fine if the tight ends start coming around and doing something, right? The running backs aren't commanding the targets they used to anymore, right? It really is we're going to throw to the wide receiver. JSN's so good, but like JSN's targets could come down and he'll still be very fine, right? JSN doesn't need to have 13 targets with how crazy efficient he is. So there's still some room in this offense for other people to shine a little bit. I kind of think that the Shaheed trade will dampen Horton's value a little bit, but that's kind of short-sighted because as soon as next year they drafted Horton, they want Horton. I don't think they see Shaheed as a guy who's going to like be a long-term great NFL player. He's a role player and he's always going to be a role player. I don't think he's got the hand talent enough. And I don't think the team looks at it that way. I think Shaheed's the insurance play that will be better than Horton this year because he's actually been a productive NFL player for a while. The league has, if you've been in the league as a good wide receiver for a couple of years, there's things you know about that Torrey doesn't even know about yet. He's just young, right? But give him some time. So I'm a buy on Torrey Horton. I'm not buying Shaheed production. Yeah, Yeah, I think that's where I'm at. I'm a buy on Horton because of the price, though. That's why I'm buying him.
I didn't know this. Did you know this? Shahid's on a 1-year, $5.2 million contract?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I thought he was on a 2-year.
No, well, obviously that changes everything if you didn't know that. With him being on a 1-year deal, this makes this a known 1-year rental.
This is a rental. I did not know that.
This is a Super Bowl window
checked.
rental. This also
Yeah.
says that, hey, if injury
Yeah.
were to happen, this buys us a week, some time. They have 2 tight ends. They can run 12 personnel with him as a deep threat. Legitimately, if JSN got a concussion and was out for two games, that could happen. I think they have 2 running backs and they can run 12 personnel with 2 good tight ends. They can survive a wide receiver hit now because they have some stability relatively cheaply. But that's why I'm very much on the dude. Horton's still like the dude here, man. Long term, and it can become a target funnel.
I would
honestly, Horton is cheap Travis Hunter. Forget the defense side of things.
Yeah, well,
you know what I mean.
I would go off for a second for Torrey Horton. I did not realize Shahid was on that. I knew Shahid wasn't going to be there long term, but I didn't realize that he's could be on the market next. He will be on the market unless they love him.
He could be a Jet next year.
He could be. Speaking of the Jets, AD Mitchell to the Jets, and I wrote this in the show doc, and I'm going to read it. Do you really care? Does it do anything for you dynasty wise?
It's interesting, but without quarterback play, it's less
that's
interesting.
That's the answer. Yeah. We talked about that earlier today. The Jets would be better if they just put a jugs machine behind the offensive line because it's kind of what they have right now. So
it's not a sell because for me, I want to hold for like 3 years, because it's not worth it, but it's definitely not a buy. It's fool's gold. It's all worthless.
Yep. I'm with you. All right. We got a couple questions, but before we do, Kendall, give me 2 minutes if you would, please, sir. That 2 minute
get the timer widget set up.
I know we gotta get that timer widget going, but give me 2 minutes on your old iPhone there. 2 minutes on the clock.
All right, we're gonna count it. We're gonna go 0 to 2. You tell me when to start.
In 3, 2, ready, go. Tonight's 2-minute drill. I want to talk about the Dynasty best buys. I'm going to give you 2 players right now that I think are not just going to be good for your team this season, but are going to be great long term. Number 1 is Devonta Smith. I've been on this player for several weeks. I've traded for him, 1 with Kendall and 2 in a couple of other leagues. Look, what's going on with A.J. Brown? Is he a trade candidate? I wrote this obviously before today. Howie Roseman coming out today saying, we love great players. It's hard to get rid of great players. We love him. But the reality is that doesn't mean he's going to be there next year, even though he didn't get traded today by the deadline. It's been up and down for him. Is the regression already hitting? There is a world where he is not an Eagle next season. Saquon is going to be a year older next year. That's another year of wear and tear. Dallas Goedert is another year older. That means he's probably going to potentially be out as well. Devonta Smith is capable of wide receiver 1 numbers. He has a wide receiver 2 floor, and he will only cost you a late first. We just talked about it today. That late first, would you rather have Matthew Golden or Smith, Jaden Higgins or Smith, Travion Henderson, RJ Harvey? These were all late first rounders from this year's class. Give me Devonta Smith over all of those players and plug him in your lineup. Ironically, the other player I want to talk about is Torrey Horton. He had a big week again last week, but he's been inconsistent, which means I believe the price today is higher than it would be last week because of the big week. But if you believe Darnold will be the QB, and he should next season, and you believe Cooper Kupp is washed, which he looks like it, the running game should stay the same. Even with the addition of Shahid, Horton is the wide receiver 2 to acquire on this team. It's a solid offense where JSN is still the guy, but the price for Horton is a late second, possibly a third with a small piece attached, and that should get the deal done. Go get yourself Torrey Horton. Go get yourself Devonta Smith, and that was tonight's 2-minute drill.
Oh, we actually made it this time, man.
I got
We're
it.
Fully under minute 59.
I did it. Let's get into some questions here. Let's start at the bottom. I know this is a dynasty. From I Blame Perk. I know this is a dynasty show, but for redraft, who's the better pickup for this week? This is a great question. Jacoby Brissett or Marcus Mariota? I know where I lean, Kendall, but I will kick it to you first.
I was really impressed with Brissett.
As was I.
Yeah,
that
was insane.
Caveat, they played the Cowboys, so let's not get excited.
Yeah, but they put 27 points up.
Yeah,
and even on the Cowboys, not everyone's putting up 27 points. Like,
No,
they weren't a good offense, and they were better. Yeah, Mariota's super, super capped. He's not good enough. Brissett was legitimately good. And he made Marv look good. Marv got a quarterback upgrade. That just happened.
It did. Let me give you the. I'm still on the Brissett side, but let me give you the other side of why. Debo's banged up. Terry's banged up. Bill doesn't look good. I think the Commanders season is probably over. How fast are they going to rush those guys back? I don't know if Debo's a Commander next year. Terry will be because of the contract, but are they really going to rush those guys back in a lost season? Whereas the Cardinals, sure, it's probably lost for them too, but like Brissett's playing for his job. If it's not with the Cardinals, it's for someone else. So give me Brissett. And you're right. He looked good. Sites to show you. Is there a certain position that's easier to draft and hit on as opposed to others you would rather just try and make a trade for?
Ooh, that's
a
interesting.
Good question.
The second part of that question is easier to answer, I guess, than the first.
Where are you going on the second part of the question?
So I always find that trading for I mean, again, just generally rookies in general, right? They're always better to just trade for them a little bit. Your third and fourth round guys that just don't do anything in the first half because no one does. I always want to take the position of scarcity that I know I can sell, right? I prefer to draft the running backs because everyone always assumes something can happen. Even if it never does, I feel like I can buy a running back and sell them for profit very, very quickly. I'm on the train of like, I like Woody Marks. I am super capped. He is never going to be like a good NFL running back. I'll be on record and say that right now. He's talented. He will be in a committee for sure. Probably never be the guy. But he's an example of like, he was later. I drafted a lot of Woody Marks, Kyle Monangai and stuff like that because, dude, they're easy to flip for value. And like, you can keep whatever pieces you want to, right? I like drafting the running backs. I like buying the wide receivers. I think people expect wide receivers to just be just amazing right away. When we used to talk about second year breakouts at wide receiver, like a lot more. Sometimes you need pieces to be traded. I just find that people give up on narratives quicker at wide receiver than at running back. And so that's kind of how I want to do that disparity, right?
Yeah.
The amount of, and I'm not saying they worked out, but the amount of times that this year isn't in particular, but in 2024, after a lot of those guys didn't hit, you could pick them up pretty quickly. Amon-Ra St. Brown's a great example. When he got drafted, he had a very bad first half of the season. You could pick him up significantly cheaper before his second half breakout.
Yeah.
So you see that a little more often. People are willing to pivot off of their wide receiver didn't become something crazy. You're seeing a lot of busts out of there. Take all the running backs you can. People will buy for them all the time, and then buy the wide receivers later on. Also, buy the tight ends when they kind of suck too. After they're drafted and they're not Brock Bowers, you can pick up the tight ends a little bit cheaper. They take time anyway, so that's why I just tend to be RB heavy.
Later I mean, I can't disagree with you at all. I think the running back scarcity means that you should draft them because you could hit on a guy, which means you're going to keep him, or you could hit on, keep a guy, stash him, but non guy later and sell him. There are just naturally more wide receivers. You're always going to be able to trade for receivers. I'm going to go a different way on this question. I like to draft quarterback in a single quarterback league, even though I know you and I've talked about this, and quarterbacks are buried in one quarterback league.
I love this take, though.
But here's why. You cannot trade for a quarterback in a single quarterback league. Let me rephrase that. It is incredibly difficult to trade a quarterback in a single quarterback league. In Superflex, it could be done. In two, give me breaking news. Dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun. Oh, I got them both done. Kendall.
I see some trades just went through, I think.
I just got them both done in the Super Bowl. I can't believe that just happened.
Jesus, that's cheap for McCaffrey. It only cost you a second for Devontae.
I just was sitting here and I had a roster.
He's not worth much more.
Sorry, I'm sorry I'm doing this in the middle of a show when I'm trying to answer this guy's question. I'm sitting here and all of a sudden I just got an alert. It said your roster has too many players. And I was like, how could it have too many players? And I saw him.
Jeez.
I just got James Conner and a first for McCaffrey and a second straight up for Adams. Oh, I might win the Super Bowl.
You got to.
I might. I have a shot. I have a shot. I thought the second for Adams would get done. I did not think the Connor first for CMC would get done.
Dude, I almost did the second for Adams thing. I didn't know it would get done.
I sent the second for Adams like a week ago, and I was like, this should get done. Like, it's a second pick. Adams is old. It's clearly a win now, buy now. We just did a whole trade show last week, and we're doing a value of picks right now.
I figured he was going to tax you a second and a third. I didn't think you'd get it perfectly thin.
Okay, well, I'll have to deal with that roster later. You want Jacoby Myers? Because now I'm willing to sell him. All right, sorry. I want to answer this question.
Glad I just played you in that league.
I was in the middle of this take, and I thought I was on a roll. I'm sorry. That was too good. I need a breaking news button. Da-da-da, da-da-da. I know that's Sports Center, but still. Okay, sorry. In a single quarterback league, it is incredibly difficult to trade for a quarterback, which is why I like to draft them. Because ask yourself this. If you took, in a single quarterback league, I don't believe a quarterback should be taken in the first round, and I really don't believe a quarterback should be taken in the first half of the second round unless you are sure. And when I say sure, I mean you're getting Caleb, you're getting Jaden, like last year. I think that's fine. And Caleb has had his problems, right? But those were great prospects. So if you want to take, like I spent the 204 last year on Jaden Daniels in a it's a 10-teamer. No, it's a 12-team. It's a 12-team. Sorry, I'm looking right at it. It's a 12-team league. I got Jaden at the 204. Great. It's freaking awesome.
It's amazing.
It's amazing. Caleb, I think we went at the end of the first or the beginning of the second, right? He went right in there.
Yeah, I think ADP had him at like the 107, 8 in most rankings. And
this is a sharp league, and guys have quarterbacks. It's 3 or 4 years into the league, so guys, you know what I mean? It's not like it's a startup where guys are positioning. It's like guys have their quarterback. You've got Burrow. You're not shopping for a second guy. You know what I mean? Like you've got your guys. So I don't remember who my quarterback was, but Jaden was too good to pass up. But like, here's my point. At the end of the day, it costs you. You're the perfect example, Kendall, because we just did this trade in a single quarterback league. It cost you a lot. It's a fair trade, but it cost you a lot to get up from Justin Herbert, who you ended up keeping because I took Purdy. That was my get with you of like because I think when we went back and forth, you offered me Herbert as part of the trade.
Yeah, there was a couple weird things. Yeah, you got legitimate value for it because I gave you more picks. The idea was like, I want to keep Herbert, but I'll give you the extra sauce. And well,
but I think if you had given me Herbert, I wouldn't have gotten the additional on top of whatever I got. I would have probably right. So that's my point. So it's like
it ended up making sense because now I'm like, I don't know who to start week to week now. Damn it.
Right. And so that's why I was like, okay, I'll take Purdy because I want more here because I need more for other positions in my team. But that's my point is it cost you a lot to get up to Allen. It would cost you an arm and a leg to get up from whoever you have to Jackson.
It feels Daniels. Like it should be cheaper, but it's not.
It's not. And that's my point. So if you could go take your mid to late second round pick this last season, and you drafted Jackson Dart as your backup because you have Joe Burrow, you're set. You're good. You do not need a quarterback for the next 5 years, 10 years, possibly, if you're in that dynasty league. Sure, you could trade some guys or whatever. But like if you have an elite passer, and I would say even if you don't, let's say you have Brock Purdy and you drafted because you don't feel stoked on Purdy, right? And you're like, I'll take the flyer on Dart. I just need a backup, but there's no one I love here in the second round because, the skill positions are drying up. The value's not there. Go draft that quarterback. Because if you hit on that Jackson Dart, who does right now look like a hit, and I'll say this, if you're in a super flex league, if we did a super flex redraft, Jackson Dart's the 101.
Yeah, dude, he's so good.
He's
so ridiculous.
Because
what's his startup value next year? I mean, he's going to be a first-round startup.
He's going to be a first-round startup pick in a super flex league. Because when we did that rookie redo, we did a single quarterback league.
Yeah, we were basically saying let's not really touch the quarterbacks,
right? Because we wanted to talk about the skill position players to give guys more of a sense of like what guys are worth. But at the end of the day, Jackson Dart in a super flex dynasty startup, a rookie draft, if you were to redo it, Jackson Dart's the 101, Ebuka's the 102, and Genti's the 103. That's the order.
Yeah, it's
so in a super flex league.
I'm being results oriented, but I don't have a lot of 1 QB, but I do have some places where Yep, that worked out pretty good. I took a lot of third round dart, and it feels pretty good. And I'm not even upset with my late third in Shuck. Like, I don't love it, but the fact that I still have, like, I don't have to spend a third or multiple to buy Mariota. Mariota
Yeah.
costs a third, or I could draft Tyler Shuck in the third. I'm
Yeah.
not calling this a pro Tyler Shuck play. I'm saying you have to pay a third for a 1 week rental quarterback. You
Yeah.
can draft a 5-10 year starter if
Totally.
you want to. Like, the value disparity is your point, and it's a great take.
It's hard, and I think like that's where at the end of the day people are always going to say like, oh, go get the extra running back because you need the depth, and you do. That is true, you do. But give me the upside. If you believe there's a quarterback that can help you there, go take your I'm going to use Jackson Dart's name, but if you're listening to the show and you can't see me, my parentheses, go take your quote unquote Jackson Dart type pick in the second round as a quarterback. Because I did it last couple years ago in a first round pick, in a single quarterback league with Bo Nix, and I lost Joe Burrow, obviously this season.
Yeah.
So in this league, in a single quarterback league, I have Bo Nix to just plug and play. And sure, like if Burrow's healthy, like maybe I have some weekly matchups, sit start decisions that like, okay, this is a better matchup for Nix than Burrow. But there's not a lot of worlds where I'm starting Nix ahead of Burrow, unless it's like just a brutal matchup. Obviously, everything assumes health, but like, and sure, people say, oh, I don't really want like two quarterbacks. It's a roster clog. It can be, but my point isn't about your roster clog.
Does your quarterback ever play at MetLife?
Is a well, good rest in peace if he does. My point is that when the question was, is there a player you're drafting? And that's how I'm answering this question. It's not about roster construction. It's about drafting, because if I were to go and I'll pull one right here for you real quick. Let's get into, this is a 10-team league, so take that with a little bit of a grain of salt. Single quarterback, 10-team. Kendall, if I were to give you, in this league, Jackson Dart went at the 306. Huh.
Yeah. I mean, it's because it's 10-team. I get it. It's one of those like quarterbacks are easy to pick up because it's 10 and whatnot. But at the same time, there's a reason we said Jaden at the 204 and Dart. We're saying these are high upside, and if we miss, we miss. But when we hit, it's very good enough. The value's there.
Let me give you some names. You ready? Single quarterback league. Rookie draft. RJ Harvey, Jackson Dart.
Jackson Dart.
RJ Harvey went at the 105. Jackson Dart, Caleb Johnson.
Oh, it's not even a question. No, Get Caleb out of your mouth.
Caleb Johnson went at the 106. Travis Hunter, Jackson Dart.
Still Dart.
Hunter went at the 108. You want me to keep going, or have I made my point?
No, I think your point's there, right?
Right, because then now we're getting into the Scattaboo at the 110, right? So it's like, okay, I would rather have Scattaboo than Dart at that point, because that is a difference maker. Because again, it's a single quarterback league. If it's super flex, of course it's Dart. But in a single quarterback league, give me Scattaboo. But it's like Cam Ward at the 207. That's Jackson Dart. So yeah, that's my point. Is if you're late second round there,
a couple more of those when you can. If you're pick light, you probably can't do that, right? Because
you've got to take a skill guy.
Right. But if you have a little sprinkle, good trades lead to other good options.
You've got a first, 2 seconds, and 2/3. Take the quarterback in a single quarterback league, because you might hit on the next Patrick Mahomes, and your Dylan Sampson pick because Kinshawn Judkins is suspended because he beat up his girlfriend, and the news is really ugly, and all of a sudden Dylan Sampson's a huge riser. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think Dylan Sampson's fine, but like, whoopsies. So that's going to do it for the show, Kendall, unless you want to trade for Jacoby Myers right now and do something live on air.
Oh, no. I got to get all the sleep I can, man. I don't know when I'm going to run to the hospital here in a couple days. So I got to rest up.
That is going to do it for this evening's show. Have a great rest of your week. It is the Broncos and the Raiders on Thursday Night Football this week. I will. I think I'm going to take the old horsies here this week in my weekly picks and move on to the rest of the games. No offense to the Raiders, but
yeah,
thank God for Brock Bowers. But woof, man.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a sick RJ Harvey spot, dude.
This could
Got a
be a good
feeling.
RJ Harvey spot. So, but enjoy your week. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of The Extra Point. And as always, shoot us your questions and your trades. We will make sure to break those down for myself, for Kendall, for all of us here at the Get Right Fantasy Network. Have a great week. We out.
Wanted to write fantasy is the play. Marking nothing but I tune every Friday. Strategies provided, I will